In this second part from outsourcing from a decision maker perspective, I would like to take you to the things which I would recommend you to definitely do. I think the first one is to invest in relationships, in personal relationships. It's important to know each other, to understand a bit what is driving not just the company, but also the person sitting up beside me. Do you know the right people? Or do you know just the account manager? This might not be enough. So it's important to personally know the right people on the vendor side. But it's also the other way around. It's important that you help the executive level of the vendor to get to know not just you, but also your colleague executives. It's important, if the shit hits the fan, as so to speak, that you can actually hold hands and solve it together. That's on a C-level. But it's also like that on an operational level. So as a decision maker, you need to really allocate budget and time and make sure the people invest in relationships, that they get to know each other, that they do team building, that they understand each other. It is extremely important to do so because it gets easier to work with each other. I think the other thing which really is important for success is give and take, and see if you can make a win-win situation. If you always, as the client, take all the benefits, it's not a win-win. And it doesn't work in the long run. So sometimes you have to not collect your penalties because it really hurts on the other side. In that case, you can sometimes better make an improvement plan and fund that with the penalty. Or you can maybe get a cost reduction. Or when you get an improvement, see if it also is good for the vendor. Because if you give and take, you can help each other when it's really important. And if you squeeze too hard, you get people cutting corners. If you squeeze too hard, for example, on financials, you will see that the junior people are put on media positions and that you have to challenge and discuss, and you go into a cycle which doesn't help you. And if you turn it around and you are open for discussion and, hey, you have it difficult here, how can we turn it around? It is beneficial for both and you actually make things work. The other thing which is, and it all sounds like open doors, but they are there, be honest and transparent and fact-based. I think it doesn't help if you have triple agendas and try to discuss one with the vendor, another internally. Be transparent on where you are, what maybe the sentiment is in the rest of the company, what you want to achieve, what you want to do, and make it fact-based. So if you have a discussion, make sure it's not based on rumors or hearsay or the perspective of your organization versus the vendor, but make sure you have a joint view on the facts. And I think you can get very far from there. Let me give an example. I did a transformation from an existing contract toward a more agile way of working, where we had to actually go from more or less turnkey towards hiring resources from the vendor into joint agile teams. We did that very transparently. I had a very good discussion with my counterpart where we discussed what is the benefit for actually doing this for both of us. And the benefit was that we could show that this way of working also worked with offshoring. What was in it for them and what was in it for me was that we could actually get out of a contract where we could work agile. And of course, what I didn't do was squeezing to the last bit, because I could have said, you have a bit of money to fund certain roles and now I want to get everything out. Then we wouldn't be able to do this transformation. So it is one of the things we discussed openly and transparently. And we actually did a very successful transformation together. And the last thing which is due is do not blame. I think that one of the things to really work on is to have a culture where you do not blame each other, but where you together work on how to do the best for both companies. That is really important, because as soon as you get into the blaming game, you go downhill, because everybody is to blame, but nothing gets better. It's easier said than done, because it's easier to say, it wasn't me, it was him. They don't really belong here, they are not part of our company, it was them, they did it wrong. Same goes with the vendor, because then they start saying, yeah, it was them, they don't adhere to the contract, but nothing gets better from it. So I think not allowing the blaming game is one of the things you definitely need to do from a C-level. And you have to give the right example, and then you really improve the way you work together. So to wrap up, the 4 things you always should do when outsourcing from a decision maker's perspective. 1, invest in personal relationships on both a C-level and among operational people. 2, give and take and always try to achieve a win-win situation. 3, be honest and transparent and always make fact-based decisions. And finally, don't play the blame game.